Hello, we are live and no one has trickled in yet. Oh, there's the first person. This is another impromptu chat. A lot of people ask me when I'm going to do these things, and a lot of times it's just when I can fit them in. So sorry that I have not been very good about announcing, hey, this live chat's going on right now, but I'll try to do better in the future. I keep saying that. We'll see how that turns out. After 10 years of marriage, apologizing seems to be about the default setting. All right. Hope everyone's doing good. Hope your bees are doing good, or you have bees on the way. A lot of exciting things going on here. Whoa, got the blue gray light special. Hey, Jason Fott, I did find that video. And yes, there are a couple Chinese made videos going around that have taken clips from me and other YouTube beekeepers and made it look like we're advertising their products. Let me tell you this right now. Unless I tell you, which I seriously doubt I would do this anyways, if I do anything like that, it would always be on my YouTube channel. It's not going to be on somebody else's stuff. So never believe this stuff. It's the ad looks so juvenile anyways. It's just poorly done. But yeah, they're pirating parts of our videos and making it look like we're promoting their product. I'm sure their products stink if they even send anything to you. All right. Yeah, UPS has been really rough. A lot of people have been having issues, not just with UPS, but the Postal Service. And there's been new companies, not new companies, new packages out there with different types of feeding devices, and they're having issues with those in transit. They're leaking onto bees. UPS really damaged some of the packages that I sent out recently. One of them was a not package of bees, but I did send out some queens to a guy, and UPS was very rough on the package. It's not always easy to go local, but that is ideal. We need more smaller beekeepers producing local made queens and nukes if possible. But I've been up to splitting bees today. It's been raining off and on, and splitting some hives and putting mated queens in them, and all kinds of stuff, getting ready to watch that honey flow come in. I'm hoping we got several good days ahead of us. All kinds of stuff. I tell you, I get on the live, and all of a sudden I got a cough. It was really annoying. I have really bad springtime allergies. Every year this time of the year drives me nuts. So I've probably been sounding a little weird in my videos. Goodness. Yeah, it's been East Bernstein, Kentucky. Man, I used to deliver freight out in that Dollar General over there. I really hated that Dollar General store. But I hated all of them for the most part. Yeah, bee heads outdoors. You got to try the queen rearing. Everyone's super nervous when they first try, and for good reason. The unknown, all that kind of stuff. This is the way I look at it. If you do the 5-frame nuke system that I kind of show in the videos, let's say it fails on you. You can combine those bees back, or you can purchase a queen, make a split. Just make it strong. Make sure they have plenty of nutrition. I mean, when I say make it strong, make it stupid strong. Make it to where there's bees having to hang outside because there's not enough room inside. Nurse bees, nurse bees, nurse bees, and make sure there's plenty of feed. And it really kind of helps if you throw a little bit of larvae in there. Like you can give them a frame of young larvae. They'll start turning those into queen cells, and then yank those out and then put yours in. And that way they're already in the mode of raising lots of royal jelly. Sometimes if you just put it together and then throw your grass in cold turkey, they'll accept them, but maybe, not as well. Thank you, Laurel. Did you post it on Facebook? Okay, okay, okay. um, I got this new hat here. It has a bee on it. It says fiddlesticks. Someone apparently likes it when I say fiddlesticks in the videos. Um, my grandpa said that a lot. I say a lot of things my grandpa used to say. It Claude Soley is the one that sent it to me. So maybe if Claude comes on tonight, he can see the hat that he sent me. Yeah, bee heads outdoors. I really think it helps with the grafting. I really think it does. I have a swarm sitting in a tree out back right now, hoping to knock them down for the second time. The first time I knocked it down, found the queen, put her in the box. Well, Brandon, if you get them again and you get the queen, put the queen in a cage. As long as it is, if they only have one queen, then they will stay with that queen. If it is a virgin swarm, there could be 9, 10, 12 different virgins in there. But typically, the first big prime swarms are with a mated queen from the colony. And so you can put them in a cage. And I've caught 6 of my own swarms this year. And I haven't had any leave on me or even try to leave the box. But again, I moved them to a totally different yard, very far away. I think it makes a really big difference. But that's over the years that I've done that, I've never had them even leave the box. Hey, Jeff de Los Santos, thank you so much for investing into our channel and our education. I really appreciate you for that. Um, well, I'm trying to help maybe a little bit with the wisdom. I'm still learning a lot myself, but I hope it helps. And trust me, we have all been there screwing up. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and they lost some nukes, and it was a big bummer for them. And I really hate that. And I was like, you know what? I did something like that 6 or 7 years ago, almost the same exact thing. Hopefully, these videos help eliminate some of those things, and that's what they're for. But I really do appreciate that, Jeff. And if you have a question, um, hit me with it. Yeah, Frank's Bees mentions laying a white sheet down first can help you see the queens. That can help quite a bit. What are your thoughts on treating a swarm for mites? Wait a few weeks. If you have oxalic acid vapor, I suggest waiting about 9 to 10 days. Go in there. What I would do is I'd hive the swarm, invert a bucket or jar feeder on there, get them some feed, put them on foundation. Swarms are awesome. They're the best at drawing new combs. So you might as well use that. Get some new combs. And you can throw one frame of larvae in there if you're really wanting to try to lock them in, kind of help seal the deal. But then the rest of it can be foundation. Put some thin syrup in there, and just make sure that they've got plenty of those, either carbs from the sugar syrup. Maybe there's a good honey flow, but I go ahead and feed them anyways. I'm not going to get honey off of that colony. At least I don't here. And get those new combs, and then 9, 10 days later, go back in there. You should be seeing some brood, unless it's a virgin. But if that's the case, then just maybe wait a little bit longer. But if that's where you got to know what's going on. If you've got a mated queen, though, get in there 9 or 10 days, and him with oxalic acid vapor. I have had some of my buddies do this that are really big swarm trappers, and they will do oxalic acid vapor right before they cap the brood. You always like to wait till the queen's laying if possible. And you also want them spread out. You don't want them clustered so you can get a good kill. And it's amazing how many mites some of these wild bees shed. And I don't know how much of the swarms that we actually catch are truly wild. I think most of them are from beekeepers. All right. How long does it usually take for a new package to start laying? I built an observation hive, and I'm just curious on your thoughts. No drawn comb. Well, if you put the package in, and I don't recommend poking a hole in the candy ever. So I just pop the cork off of the queen cage, and then it's probably going to take them maybe 2 days to get her out of there. Give her a couple days to get warmed up. I usually come back and check them, and I have a little bit of feed going on at this time too. Whenever the bees are going through stress, whether you're making splits or installing a package or a swarm, food, any of us, if we're in a stressful situation, what do? We eat. We eat. Bees like to eat too. It's reassuring, is what it is, especially when you're a package and you literally have no resources. So give them a little bit of feed, come back a week later, and you should start seeing some eggs and young larvae. You can wait 10 days too. But if you're not seeing any eggs or larvae in 10 days, then that's cause for concern. Let's see. Maysville, Kentucky. I was up there speaking at a conference, I think, last year, right before everything went down. Getting nukes Friday. Do I need to treat them? Justin Mitchell. So maybe. It depends. I have seen nukes that were riddled with mites, and a good quality nuke should have very low mites. So it just depends. Um, when in doubt, oxalic acid, you could hit them a few times. But it's hard if there's a good bit of brood in there. Then every time you're treating, you're lucky to get more. I would say you're lucky to get 20% of the mites if there's a decent bit of brood in there every time you treat. Probably realistically somewhere around 10 to 15%. But that's still a whole lot better than nothing. So just kind of see how they look. If they have a really good brood pattern and nothing looks off, their mites probably aren't too bad at this point. Do you use wax starter strips? I have, and they work. If you're going to use starter strips, though, make sure the hive is level because bees go from literally north to south when they draw comb, from North Pole to South Pole. And so if you need to have your box level, get a leveler out if you're going to use starter strips, and it'll really help them not start at the top and then go to the left or to the right of the bottom bar. Get that hive level if you're going to use starter strips. I prefer foundation myself. It just saves me a lot of time, but strips will work. Hey, Faithful from Birth. I did see your email. I haven't had a chance to get back to it. I'm probably about 40 emails behind. People asking for queens and stuff. But if I get some extra queens, you are in there, and I will let you know. Right now, I'm incredibly covered up in the near future, though. But I will. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you send one a month from now, 3 weeks from now, and just like, hey, if you got some queens, I can't keep up with the huge demand, and it's just Laurel and I. We're really seriously talking about getting an employee so we can um, have someone that can handle the more of the monotonous type stuff that just has to be done. So I can focus, or Laurel can focus on raising more queens or more nukes, so we can get more product into people's hands and focus on what we do best. Alberta, Canada. All right. West Virginia. People from all over. Hey, Kamon, in your cell builder, do you have nectar below and above the grafts? So, so a cell builder, I would consider that, Mandrew, a cell finisher. So I'd have a starter and then a cell finisher or cell builder. The way I have mine is I have a queen below an excluder, and I make sure that I go in there once a week and check because we're mimicking basically swarm like conditions. Swarms are the best at raising queen cells. So if we want something to finish a lot of cells and do them at the highest level, we need as close to swarming as we can get. That means a boatload of bees. And to sustain that long term, we need a good queen down below. So we'll have an excluder. We'll have every week we'll go down in there in that bottom brood chamber, and we will make sure there's no queen cells. And we're also going to drop some drawn combs if we have them, and we do, and make sure she's in laying room. We're also going to pull up frames of larvae, so we're and changing those out with maybe capped brood from above. The grafts go right next to a frame of bee bread, and they go right next to a frame of larvae. Nurse bees are always all over the larvae frames, and they're always over the bee bread frame. So if we stick a grafting a bunch of cups down in there, then they're really going to focus and be a high concentration of nurse bees around those queen cups, queen cells. And then As that larvae frame gets capped, we take that and we stick it below because it'll be emerging before too long, and then the queen can lay that up. So it's a constant rotation. It's fairly intensive, but it works really good, and great queens are definitely worth it. I really don't worry about having nectar below or above the grafts. I make sure there's good food in there, and if there's not a good honey flow going on, then we're feeding very thin syrup, thinner than 1 to 1. Let's see. Oh, Tom Morrow. Thank you so much, Tom. Hey, I love that icon that you have there with Charlie Brown and Snoopy. That I absolutely love Peanuts and everything to do with them. One of my favorite comics books. I've got some of the old comic actual books that I inherited, and I also just love some of the movies that they produced over the years. Classy. Lamont, how tall are you? Um, I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to say Cayman. If it's Cayman, you have to spell my name right. Maybe he's talking to somebody else. Let's see. B Lord. Hey, B Lord, Polish man. Hope you're doing good over there. Hope things are thawing out. So, can you put the Kloss Hive dome on top of a honey super or a flow hive? You could do it. Keep in mind, though, once they kind of start running, filling up that super below that, they're going to build burr comb underneath. I've had some people say they don't really do it, but I don't believe that. I'll believe it when I see it. I know what bees do under my half-inch feeder rims, and I've got some that are 3/4 of an inch feeder rims, and they put burr comb up in there. And I know during a honey flow, they're going to stick it anywhere they can. And so there's a great chance that if you use a Kloss Hive dome during a honey super or a flow time of the year, they're going to build burr comb and a lot of it in there. So just keep in mind. But if you keep on top of it, maybe you could do. I mean, you could do it. How tall are you, Cayman? I am 5'6", maybe and a half. I think 5'6.5", with definitely 5'7" with my boots on. What? Quit laughing in there, woman. I'm taller than you are. I'm gonna pay for that. She's in there giggling her head off. You all should hear her. You know, no respect. No respect. All righty. So, Brian Reese, hey, I hope you had a safe trip back from your Kentucky and Tennessee trip. Oh, out to dinner with the wife. Yeah, yeah. Well, take care, Brian. And man, I thank you so much for your continued support of what we do on YouTube and the experimental yard. Just thank you so much, Brian. And it was fun getting to meet you the other day. Let's see here. All right, back to bee stuff. Back to bee stuff. And what will it take to get the wife on camera? I don't think there's enough money in the world to get her on camera. She is so shy. Yeah. So everyone's starting to talk about my height now and how their 13-year-old sons. Well, see, I wasn't fed all that steroided chicken, all that kind of stuff. I ate deer meat. It didn't have all those hormones in it, and just perhaps that my mom's genetics on that side didn't have a lot of tall men. I'm actually one of the taller on her side of the family, which isn't saying much, but it hasn't kept me from doing what I wanted. And let me tell you, when you're working underneath the truck and trying to work on it, it pays to be little. It really does. All right. Take that grin out of this room. I tell you what. All right. Ask a beekeeping question. It's always good to ask a beekeeping question. Let's see. Yeah, Laurel comes on the live chats every now and then. She doesn't say much. She's a really shy person. I don't know why. She's smart, good looking, a lot better looking than I am, has a lot of great things to say, a lot of good thoughts. Who knows? How long should I wait before I transfer a newly arrived swarm from a swarm box to a hive? So, her Sylvia, are you talking like a swarm trap? You've caught them in a swarm trap? and you're wanting to transfer them over. Hello from North Georgia. Enjoy your videos, buddy. I don't see how you do it. It's all I can do to keep up with hives making videos, but great work, man. Well, I appreciate that very much, Broom Farms. It is literally right now, those 80, 90, last couple of weeks has been easily 90-hour work weeks. And if, Laurel and I, 180 hours, thereabout, it is crazy this time of the year. And, you're just trying to keep up. We're maxed out. We really, in the next year or so, need to get get an employee or something like that, just to help us deal with everything. A lot of it's just having things efficient and in the right place at the right time. And with 10 years ago, I couldn't run 50 hives, and now we're well over 300, probably 350 now. Yeah, more than that actually. Shoot, pushing 400. But a lot of those are going to be gone. We're gonna sell some of these nukes off, and some of these are the experimental yard bees too. So that's been an added bit. Speaking of which, they were installed a handful of days ago. The first video is being filmed, and I'm really excited to release that and what we're going to learn from that. I may be the most excited about it just because I know the more that I have dialed in my beekeeping, and it's a lot, it's work. And that's again why a lot of people don't cover this stuff, is because it is literally roll up your sleeves, sweat your rear end off in summer and freeze it off in winter type work. It's not always fun. But the more I've done that, my bees have really done a lot better, and they look great. And we have too many bees right now. I can't even put up my swarm traps and all that kind of stuff. Just it's a great situation to be in. I hope many of you get there before too long. Okay, so her Sylvia swarm trap is right next to a brand new hive, but the swarm came into the box instead of the new hive. You can transfer it pretty soon. If it doesn't have any combs in there or anything like that, then you'll probably want to go in and a few days and pull it out so they don't draw a bunch of comb and tie it up and shake it into your other one. My swarm traps always have frames and foundations, so it's no big deal. But if it's an empty cavity, they're gonna really tie that in, and that wouldn't be too good. Hey, I did splits yesterday. The queen cell is not capped. Is it okay, or should I not treat with oxalic acid at this time? If the queen cell is not capped, just give it a couple more days. It won't hurt, just to make sure you're not doing it when she's in a virgin stage. So it takes 6 days from the time a larvae is grafted to the time. Well, it takes about 7, 8 days from the time a queen egg hatches into a larvae. So if you're seeing one that's already started on, just give it 3 or 4 days. It'll be capped. Hit it with oxalic acid. Don't treat oxalic acid though, ever, or any type of treatment, when you have a virgin running around in the colony or when you have a queen that's being introduced. Wait till they start laying, or do it before they're introduced. That's a great way to get a queen killed, is to treat in the process of them being introduced into a colony. Once they start laying and the pheromones from everything working together, everything's great. But if they're in that middle of that process, they will ball and kill them sometimes. I always stop feeding when dandelions pop out good. Should I feed longer? The only reason I feed early in the season is if a colony is really low, Justin Mitchell. It also, and another reason that I would feed, I guess, would be just to earlier than the dandelions. I'd feed a little bit, maybe just to flush their guts. If I've got a few colonies or something that maybe are showing signs of European foul brood, or just something a little off, I'll feed them a little bit just to, and a lot of times that sugar syrup will kind of flush it out of them. Steve Lockwood, buying a queen or let them make a new one? That is hard. That's a hard question to answer. If you can make your own, that's great. If I'm going to do walk away splits, then which I'm not the world's biggest fan of, but I'm not a big fan of buying queens from just any old source either, because that's kind of a mixed bag of nuts. Then if I'm making a walk away split, then what I want to do is I want to make a thought out one. It doesn't have to be huge. Basically, just take you a nice frame of eggs from a good colony or very young larvae. You prefer them to be only raised off of young stuff. So if you could find a frame that's mostly eggs and a little bit of larvae, just take that frame with the adhering bees. Don't take the queen. Get you a frame of food, adhering bees, 3 frames of foundation. You got your nuke box right there. Now take 2 more frames of bees and shake them in. So you want to have about 3 to 4 frames of coverage for only 2 frames of comb. This is important. If you're wanting high quality queens, you need plenty of nurse bees because they have to do a lot of work to raise those queens and to maintain all of that brood right there. Give them a small pollen patty if you have it. If there's plenty of pollen coming in, you don't have to worry about it so much. Maybe just a smidgen. You don't probably have to do it. Give them a little bit of feed, just a tiny bit. Feed helps them out. Then when they start drawing those queens off of that walk-away split, they're all going to be from the young stuff. Plenty of bees. It's going to take a while, granted, to where that queen will come back laying, but that probably worked pretty good right there. I would say you have a pretty good chance of success. But walk-away splits need to be thought out just like anything else, and also realize it's going to take a long time for that queen to come back compared to either dropping a queen cell or a mated queen. But I think if you do it right, walk-away splits can work really good. I've never, I like to raise my own queen cells. It's a heck of a lot faster. I was dropping queens the other day, and they were cutting through the cells as I was dropping them in. So, they're probably going to be laying within 7 to 10 days if we get good flying weather. It's a whole lot faster. All right. Hey, thanks again. I never can pronounce your name, but preferred technique for introducing virgins. That I am not the greatest at this, but I do it. So I'm not saying that what I've got to say is the best way to do it. Smaller colonies are easier to introduce them into. It really helps a lot. Mating nukes is typically I actually only have ever introduced versions into mating nukes. My mating nukes are always pretty small. We're probably talking about, they're 3-frame mating nukes. So on average, they're probably around 2 frames strong. You want healthy bees. It's easier during the spring flow. Again, nutrition's coming in. They're focused on ripening the nectar and packing in the bee bread. The older bees are the ones that give you problems with your virgins and everything. If they're idle and they have nothing to do, then give them something to do. Give them a trickle of feed. Give them a little pollen patty. Give them something. But definitely bigger colonies are hard to introduce them in. So how am I going to introduce them into that situation? I am going to literally take the queen and submerge her in honey. And then I'm going to stick her into the colony. I'm not going to smoke that colony. I'm going to get into it as little as possible. Literally, like just crack the lid, dip her in honey, and stick her in. And if I can have some feed going into that colony, I think that helps as well. Make sure no essential oils. Don't come into the colony. Don't bump it. Don't mow next to it. And that's the way that I do it. And bigger colonies are less accepting of virgins. Now, there is a product from Better Bee. I have not used it. I've had several people suggest that I do it on a video, and they actually have artificial wax cells that look like queen cells, and you can put the virgin down in there and introduce them in, and they have to cut through that again. And I think that could be great. I've never tried it, but if they actually can cut through that, like you're introducing a cell, and it gives them a little bit longer of a period. I wouldn't dip them in honey for that, but that could be pretty cool. Maybe I can try that this year. I've just got to say a huge thank you again to Kenneth Dutton, who's also been a huge supporter of our educational videos and the experimental yard. And I hope that Kenneth, that if you have any questions, you'll give them to me. And thank you so much for your continued support of what we do. And just hit me with questions. I'm trying to keep up with all the questions. Just keep after me. We'll keep going as fast as I can. I used Apivar strips on my newly installed packages. You think it'll be more effective than if I was to use them on a bigger hive? I think it would be more effective. Every treatment is more effective when the colony is broodless or close to it. Um, Even Hop Guard, which is a pretty weak treatment, was shown to be pretty effective in a broodless situation. However, I think that was still done by the manufacturer. It's just hard to trust these people. Honestly, it just just verify. And, most of this information we get on these treatments that are legally available for us are from the people who are trying to sell them. So, of course, it's the greatest product out there. Hence, this experimental yard. We need to know what works. I need to know what works. I want to keep my colonies as natural and as pure and as clean as possible. And I think we have some great options out there as far as not building up any toxicity in the hive, very gentle on the bees, some of them, but how effective are they really? And what do we need to do to encourage a higher level of kill and less stress or no stress on our bees? Terry Hagan, are you going to show any more videos on your long hive? Absolutely. I just filmed one this morning. So be on the lookout for that, Terry. I think it's really cool. I really think that it's a neat hive. I'm looking forward to seeing how it performs this year. What should I do if my bees are overloading the brood chamber with pollen and nectar? They have an empty medium super above that they are not using. If you have drawn combs, you can pull some out and replace them. It's a tricky situation. Then you can freeze the ones that you take out. And there's that's why drawn comb is king. Next to the bees, it is the most valuable asset that you have. It's hard when you start getting if something gets backfilled in the colony. That's why you hope that they hit those supers pretty quickly. And that's why a lot of people use all deeps or all mediums, because everything's interchangeable. Where if you have drawn mediums, you can't drop them down into a deep. But there's really not a lot outside of that I can recommend. Comb is king. Excuse me. Let's see. Let's see here. Palmer Brothers Bee Farm. Thank you so much. Sorry it's taken so long to get to your question. I know you can add 2-day queen cells to queenless nukes. However, I have to make splits now to settle the bees down for the honey flow. Is it okay to put capped queen cells just the same? Absolutely. 2-day queen cells. I am fixing to start testing that out before, maybe in the next month. Should happen sometime in May, where I'm fooling around with the 2-day queen cells. Getting this experimental yard set up, just about there, and getting the videos edited and starting that is very important to me. But after that, the 2-day queen cell is a big deal. I'm going to be tinkering around with that. But capped queen cells work just the same. It's just a little bit faster. I mean, honestly, capped queen cells are better. That means less time between the time that you drop them and the time you have a laying queen. So that means more bees. I think it'll be great. Hey, Stephen R., thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Okay, man, I'm like way behind on the questions. What do you think of only using oxalic acid vape for mites and no other treatments? I think it's always good to have something else, even if you use it just a little bit, just to keep the mites honest. I personally don't think that the mites are going to be able to get immune to a physical treatment. There are some people who differ with me on that, but I really don't think if you lined up the entirety of the human population, you sprayed us all with battery acid, I don't think that we're going to develop immunity. I don't think so, or a flamethrower for that matter. But it's still, I believe in doing multiple treatments. So even if it's something that's a soft treatment, Hop Guard, I haven't tried the newest version. Apiguard Thymol, I'm fixing to talk about that in this next question. But oxalic acid vaporizing can be your mainstay treatment, I think. But It can't be when there's a lot of brood. I think you need to be smart with it. I think you need to make your splits and time them, and it makes it way more efficient. And it's a wonderful treatment when you can get access to those mites because it's just so gentle on the bees. When in doubt, use a little bit more. I believe with oxalic acid vapor, it's a very gentle treatment. Sometimes too gentle of a treatment because it just doesn't hit the mites hard enough. All right. Nuts and bolts beekeeping. I wasn't satisfied with Apivar last year. I was hoping it would work well since it was my first year and didn't have a vaporizer. A lot of beekeepers who have been literally using tens of thousands of dollars of Apivar a year are finding the same results. And it's frustrating. You spend a lot of money on something and you just want what you pay for. I don't think that's too much to ask for. And, what kind of control do we have over all this? Not really a whole lot. And so that's kind of why this series is going to be focused on trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, and trying to dial it in for all of us. And I hope that we can. Apivar is not going to be in any of my hives this year. If it is, it's going to be to see in a test on how it works, but I don't think I'm going to have time for that this year. Oxalic acid with supers on in Tennessee. Double checking. Is this legal in Tennessee now? Is there any effect on the honey taste with the acid? Personally, I don't think it's super effective when you have a lot of brood. And the peak time of brood is when it's the honey supers on. I mean, it's a massive colony. So I don't think that it helps that much when there's a lot of brood in there and it's honey flow season. Does it affect the honey? Obviously, they don't think so, or they wouldn't make it legal. Now, technically, Apabioxyl is the only legal product that you can use, and I don't think they've even changed the label yet. So technically, even if you have Apabioxyl, you're supposed to wait and buy the one that does have the label so that you are blessed by the powers that be to proceed. But yeah, I would personally try to work around it. I don't like treating with anything, even if it's really natural, while honey supers are on. I just don't like to do it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just not going to. Let's see here. I know I missed a comment up above. I've read an article about fogging mineral oil and wintergreen 98 kill on Varroa. Have you heard anything? Thought about adding it into pest management cycle? I don't think foggers do a whole lot. The people who typically have promoted that style of fogging are YouTubers and are kind of notorious for having tiny hives and are both very questionable if they even produce their own bees. And so with YouTube, it doesn't necessarily have to work. You just get videos that get clicks. And that's one thing obviously we want people to watch our videos, but there's a lot of videos that we don't do because they're stupid. I'm not saying necessarily this one is, but some things just get popular and like murder hornets and stuff like that. And, we try not to be trendy. We try to be informative. I don't think that the fogging I think it's had its heyday and then people realized it didn't really work that good. And there's been some scientists who have actually tested those things and they didn't find that they hardly did anything. Now, maybe there's some other scientists that say different. But as far as I know, fogging is kind of a waste of time. And, the mineral oil and stuff like that, I don't think it's worth it. Oxalic acid is soft enough as it is. I doubt that's as strong of a treatment. When is a good time to remove the hive reducer and open up the entrance? So I've been seeing a lot of people on Facebook like, are my bees fixing to swarm? And they'll have a colony with like 3 or 4 deeps worth of bees, at least 3 deeps worth of bees, and they'll have an entrance that's like that big and like a 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch tall. You cannot funnel. You can, but should you funnel 40,000 bees through an entrance that small? I don't think so. Some people are like, well, this helps prevent with small hive beetles and everything else. That's stressful on the colony when they're that massive. Take it out. Open it up to 6 inches. Um, I like to open my entrances once the colony gets past 8 frames strong. I'm adding that second deep box. I'm going to open that entrance up a little bit. And definitely by the time they're really into that second deep and starting to really cover 12 to 15 frames, I'm gonna have about that much of my entrance open, about half of it. Now, there's different times of the year. Right now it's spring. Bees really aren't robbing that much at all. And when you get into June, things can get different. But bees can abscond due to heat related issues. And let me tell you, if you have a powerful colony and a little tiny entrance, they might leave just because they can't cool the hive down. If you're going to reduce it that much, you better have a screened bottom board or upper ventilation or something. Especially if it gets in the 90s or 100 degrees, they'll leave right out of the hive. And I've seen it happen on colonies where, or little mating nukes where they'll overheat and they'll just abscond. There'll be nice frames of capped brood in there too. And then the beetles take over. Fun times. Let's see. Hey, Kamon, can you talk about your use of Apogard Thymol for midsummer treatment? I live in Middle Tennessee and heard you mention an issue with our heat and humidity during this time. Oh, yeah. Love that heat and humidity. Uh, I usually do the 30%. So I get the tub, and on the pack, it says to do 2 rounds. I believe it's 10 days apart. I'm pretty sure that's right. Of 50 grams. Or you can do 30 grams once a week for 3 weeks. And I think there may be a couple other options that Apogard has. You can look at their label and see what they recommend. But I do 30 grams once a week for 3 weeks. However, I've been doing that for several years and in combination with other treatments throughout the summer, not at the same time. And that's done really pretty good for me. I've been pleased with it, and it's pretty natural. The thymol is so. The bees, it does kind of disrupt them a little bit, but it's not like formic where I'm seeing just if I did formic in that heat, 90 degrees, I'm losing brood, and you see brood and pupae chucked out on the ground. But that'll be part of the experimental yard. So I'm going to have 13 colonies dedicated to that. Alcohol washes beforehand, alcohol washes afterwards, and kind of see how efficient it really is. It'll be interesting to see. But that's how I'm using it. And I'll either use that in June after I pull honey supers, or I will use something else in June, and then I will use that in August. I like crushing mites. It makes my bees look really good. As a commercial person, do you carry special business insurance at all when you have so many hives on your property and out yards and other people's property? I'm thinking liability if someone kicks hive. Yeah, so I have an LLC. I have that. I also have some other insurance. Probably not as much as I should, but also I really do a pretty good job of filling these people out. I make sure they're a long ways from people's properties. Like every time it's on a farmer's place where I can get access, but it's way away from the house. It's away from their livestock, which is good because cows love to use hives to rub their big butts on, and horses, and a lot of them. And then you don't want to sting their livestock, and you definitely don't want them close to a kennel. Bees can kill dogs and cats and stuff like that. If they get upset, they'll just smell that pheromone and sting, 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 sting. So, and some animals are actually allergic to bee stings. Come to find out, I've heard that from other people, not from experience, but farmers are really good. Typically, you find people that are used to getting hurt a lot, and they're the best people to put bees on their property. I have some of them that get stung because they can't help but get close to them and see what's going on, and they're just like, "Yeah, that one popped me. My wife said I looked funny, But I've developed some of these relationships for 6, 12, 15 years, so that helps a lot. Being a talker, I meet a lot of people, and you sort through them pretty quick. People learn who I am, and they either hate my guts or they tolerate me. So there you go. Let's see. All right. Hey, Melissa's Harvest. Thanks so much for supporting our channel. Um, oh, no questions from you tonight. Well, I hope your bees are doing really good and all that. If you do have a question, just let me know. And thank you so very much. Let's see. All right, so it's Steve Chubb. Yeah, I'll try to do a better job about letting people know when the live chat's going to be in the future. This one was kind of about to fly by the seat of my pants. I was able to get all of my splits and the mated queens into the nukes that I made up before dark, which was impressive. Usually it's dark to dark work right now, and so I just was able to get a little bit of free time. And somebody commented on Facebook and said, "Are you doing a live chat tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, I was planning on doing one of those tonight if I could fit it in." And here we are. Let's see. All right, trying to catch back up. Trying to catch back up. Found out the hard way. Cost me a $400 vet bill for your dog that's allergic to bee stings. All right, that stinks. Poke salad, yes or nah? It's poke salad. If let's see. This is what we have here. I'm typing it down next to yours. Poke salad. And no, I'm not a huge fan of it. You know, if you like, if you need to have a colon cleanse, it is actually really good for that. So if you're needing to cleanse, knock yourself out. Plenty of oxalic acid in it too. That's one of the reasons why they have to wash it off multiple times. Autocorrect. Autocorrect. It kills me. How do you get creamed honey? Well, hang on. So some honeys naturally cream really nice. Well, let me grab that too. So my buddy David in Hawaii produces the Kiave honey, and there's other honeys out like this in the world. They're not all white. This one's got the vanilla bean in it. Yeah, there we go. You can kind of see those vanilla beans that floated to the top. It's all produced in Hawaii. Some of the coolest honey ever, and the vanilla is just like insanely delicious. I mean, like I put this up where the kids can't get to it. um, but I mean, this is so smooth, you just can't taste the crystals at all. So if you were to take some honey like this, of either your own or something that you liked, you can use it and seed it. However, if you don't have access to that, then you can buy starter kits like this right here, and this one comes from Dadent. And I'm planning on doing a video on it at some point. It was supposed to happen last year and didn't happen, but this is used to mix into honey, and it'll make it a really nice texture. Now, I believe you have to spin it from time to time, or it'll set up a little hard. But if you want it real creamy, you have to mix it. I'm sure there's some people that have better experience with that than I do, because mine is literally just hearsay. In your opinion, naturally mated queens versus production mated, not even the same thing. The difference between getting a tomato from Walmart or a ripe one from your neighbor or in your backyard, that big of a difference. Have you ever used Kona queens? No, I have not. My thoughts on Hawaiian queens are, what have they had to deal with? They don't know what winter is. They don't know what hard life is. It's maybe the easiest place in the United States to be able to. I'm just kind of messing a little bit. Honestly, if the queens are mated good and they're given good nutrition, I would be totally happy to get queens from anywhere, really. I don't care. If they're a high quality queen mated well, with good genetics, that's not going to be susceptible to things like chalk brood and foul brood and stuff like that, bring it on. The problem is when you order queens, you don't know what you're getting. A lot of these guys are grabbing queens in like a 14-day cycle. It's really annoying. Hey, Steve Chubb. Hey, I just saw that. Thank you so much. I overlooked that. I really appreciate you really supporting the experimental yard the last few live chats. Thank you very much, Steve. Let's see here. Where was I? These things scroll on me. Hey, Ian. So you're back inside. Let it set up hard in a cool place, travels well, then when it warms on a cupboard shelf, it softens naturally. So, Ian, I got to ask, do you save any of that canola honey for yourself and for your family? Do you guys even eat a lot of honey? And is canola honey any good. I've heard some people say it's not. I've heard some people say that it's good, and obviously there's personal preference there. And thanks for that cold weather you sent us down um, from up where you're at. I really it was a cold spell. You nearly killed our black locust and tulip bloom for the year. Just by the way, hope things are doing well for you up there. I saw all of those bees though. I think they're doing just fine warming up the hives. Canadian Beekeepers blog. It's premium. I should have known that was coming. I should have known that was coming. Doggone. Um, again, I've told you the marketing is all wrong though with Bee Mate. I don't know why they have your face on the product, Ian. They need to have, you know, your like your daughter or your wife or somebody like that that actually makes that honey fly off the shelves. If I'm buying honey and I'm thinking Bee Made, I'm not thinking Ian Stepler in an apron. Okay. uh, okay. Enough with the bad jokes. Jojo, do you prefer one or two boxes before you add your honey super? So I'll have two deep boxes on, and then I'll reduce um, down and have the queen down excluded into the bottom deep. Um, and then yeah, I'll have the honey supers on. Even if you just add one honey super, just add it a little earlier than what you think it is. Even if it's just one, doesn't have to be. Don't do it a lot earlier, but you never know. Some of these years, the honey flow, just you get some good weather, and man, it just hits, and things can get plugged up. So it varies from year to year. But I like keeping things. Everything's getting reduced down into a single brood management. Let's see here. Let's see. Honey butter sandwiches. Yes, those are good. Have you tried swapping a weak hive and a strong hive to strengthen the weak hive? Any thoughts? Oh yeah, do that all the time. Depends on the condition of the weak hive. If it's got a good queen in there, then maybe I'll do something like that. If the queen's no good, then I'm not going to try to help that colony out. If she's got, let's say it's like a 3-frame colony, but and it's not there's not a lot of brood in there, but the pattern is good, and you can tell that it's consistent, and you can tell that they're growing, or 4 frames or 5 frames, whatever. It's all about potential. And if they have potential, then I'm willing to reward that. If not, then we, like today, eliminate those queens, and we put a queen in there that does have potential. And a lot of people don't do that, and I get it, but that hard-nosed type of approach really helps us not lose very many colonies that we were losing otherwise, because queens can sometimes be part of the equation on why you lose colonies. Sometimes they stink, and they need to go. And in nature, that colony just dwindles down to nothing. But yeah, you can do that. So one of the things that I did just 2 days ago, I have a 9 frames and a 10-frame box, and one of those frames is a grafting frame, and it's completely queenless, only nurse bees, extremely packed. Well, it's in that video that I had. Oh goodness. I was introducing the queen cells and all that kind of stuff. It was the one above the double screen board, just packed with bees. And I just moved that to a different location, and I replaced that with a young little colony that had potential, but I moved it to a new location for a couple reasons. The primary reason is because I wanted to shed all of those forager bees. I wanted to get back and see how many nurse bees I had, and all those forager bees went to that little colony up top and really beefed it up. And I put foundations in there with that little colony, and fed it some syrup. And that colony is going to do fantastic now. And now my queen rearing colony is off somewhere else. The only thing that's left in there is now nurse bees. And so I know how many I have and how many more I need to add to continue rearing queens in it. Yeah, basswood honey is a prime honey. The wood is high quality too, but I hate to see a good basswood tree cut down. I wish there was more basswood trees around here. There's an okay amount, but they are awesome, especially good basswood honey year, and you can smell it coming into the hives. Man, it is nice. Hey, Charles. Nobody knows when I'm going to do a live chat. I'll try to do a better job of informing people, but honestly, it's really hard to find the time to plan these things out. I wasn't even planning on doing this an hour ago. Someone messaged me on Facebook, was like, "Hey, when are you going to do a live chat next?" And I was like, "Well, doggone, I guess we have time to do one tonight." That's literally how long I gave my wife. I said, "Hey, Laura, we're doing a live chat." She's like, "Well, it'd been nice to get a little bit of warning, but honestly, I could have been outside working bees right now, and I was the last couple nights. So it just really depends. I'll try to do a better job about informing and planning things out, but it's really hard to plan right now. Let's see. Questions. Can you explain your hive setup to maximize honey production? Thanks for the videos. Okay. So obviously we have to have a great queen and no mites because we need a queen going full throttle. We need a good cluster coming out of winter. So we're assuming we have all of those things. First thing that I'm going to do is, let's say it's March. My nectar doesn't come in here in Tennessee until about the end of March. On a warm year and on a cooler year, it's going to be about the first week of April. So we're already getting honey. I've got some colonies. I need to get a video or two on these colonies, and they almost have a medium super full of honey already. I bet if you took the second frames out of the middle of the second box, they do have a medium full of honey already. Good start to the year. Way different than last year. I've already produced as much honey at this point than I did probably mid-May last year, probably third week of May last year. It's crazy. Anyways, what we're doing to set them up is every good colony like that wants to swarm. It is as natural as anything. And they're going to want to, no matter how much space that you give them, no matter what you do. Um, every now and then you'll get a couple that won't. But by and large, my colonies do want to try to swarm. And there's a difference between them going hard at it or just starting to. The main strategy is keeping that queen in laying room. So we're going to have every one of those colonies in doubles until early April because for multiple reasons. The queens are laying hard. There's tons of pollen coming in. We produce tons of pollen late March, early April. It kind of gears back in May a little bit. And we still get good pollens, but not as much. I mean, right now, I'd say 4 frames in a double are occupied with bee bread. If you put it all together in some frames, 3 to 4 frames. And then you start talking about food resources. You want to see at least 3 deep frames worth of food. So that's 7 frames tied up right there, minimum. And so, your queen needs plenty of room to lay. So it's double deep. And then before April rolls around, I want at least 1 super on each one. Maybe don't go hog wild and put them all on because sometimes I learned last year, you put them on, give them all that space. I mean, I added what would be the equivalent of 4 or 5 mediums or 3 deeps, thereabouts. And then we got that really hard cold spell, and it really affected the colonies a little bit. I think they would have been better if I'd have had less space on them. So kind of keep track of the weather, keep track of what's going on, and just be prepared. Every year's a little different. But then we're also before all this is going on with the honey production, we are going into those colonies on a weekly basis if we're wanting the biggest crop possible. And we're cutting out cells. So probably about every 6 days we're going in. We're going in there, we're smashing cells if it's necessary. We're putting in frames of drawn comb if we need to. And on the really big ones, we're pulling frames of brood, and in some of them 2 frames of brood with bees, and just piling them together in Jester nuke boxes, and 4 frames to a box so they don't overheat. And then we're taking them back here to the home yard to make mating nukes and splits with and raise queens with, and just trying to pull them back and there's Walt Wright's method of checkerboarding and all that stuff, but honey production is not my main focus here. So I would rather pull the colonies back, keep those bees. I hate losing swarms, and I still do it anyways. But it made me feel better when I was talking to Bob Benny the other day, and he was telling me about a huge swarm that got away from him. I wasn't satisfied that it got away from him, but it made me feel better that Bob's losing some swarms too. Because I'm kind of a perfectionist with my beekeeping, and I want to be as good as I can. So, anyways, once the bees commit to putting that nectar above the excluder, it is really easy to get them to not swarm at that point, but it's getting them to that point. So we cut the bees back. I want to see, I want to see, the powerful colonies, but I don't want to lose a swarm. A good prime swarm, especially off of a nice honey production colony, is probably worth like 200 and something bucks. So it takes a lot of honey, what I sell it for to justify that. Anyways, um, I'm still tinkering with my honey management, but more and more I'm gearing towards let's not go for the 100 and something pound honey crops. I'm okay with 80 to 100 pounds and selling a nuke off of that colony or increasing the bee yards or whatever, making mating nukes because I hate chasing swarms. I hate getting into the colonies all the time. And honey production is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And, we don't have a long flow here. In some of my bee yards, it is literally a month and a half long, best case scenario. In my best bee yards, we'll get 2 months. Can I split a first year hive? Yes, you can. I don't like it personally when, this is just my opinion, when people split little colonies. A lot of YouTubers, not a lot, but some YouTubers are really big into promoting 4-frame and 5 frames. And oh man, look at this 5-frame colony. Time to split. What? That's a baby. That's how big we sell them is 5 frames strong. And people are ready to split those things up. And I just think you kind of do your bees a disservice myself. I prefer splitting bees when they have at least 5 or 6 frames of brood, good frames of brood. And, splitting doubles is fantastic too. Keep in mind that a good queen, and especially this time of the year, the prime time of the year in spring, they can lay like crazy because they have all these natural things coming in that's helping them be able to just lay full steam ahead. So why break them early? So if you're going to split, in my opinion, wait till they're at least 15, 16 frames strong, then break them up. That's just my opinion. If you had harvested a bunch of royal jelly and you put the royal jelly in small 5-frame cell-builder hive and grafted into JZBZ cups, would that help make giant queens? Do they just move it? They will consume royal jelly, and that does go into their guts, and that is going to, or fat bodies or whatever, and that could help them produce more royal jelly. Again, I really think also having a frame of larvae in there that they're already drawing queen cells on, and you can just pull that out and then give that to another colony, that frame, and then put your grafts in there, getting them in the mode of, if you have plenty of nurse bees, they can, and they have the nutrition, they can produce plenty of royal jelly. They just, sometimes you drop the grafts in there and it takes them a little while to get things going. And if they're already producing royal jelly, then there's no hiccups at all. Makes a difference. My swarm trap has 30 to 40 bees flying in and out, but no other bees. Are they looking for a good home or just curious? They're looking. They're looking. I mean, they may swarm into that box. Unless you have food or something in there, the only reason there should be bees going in there is because they're scouting it out as a possible location. So who knows? Let me know next live chat if you caught anything. I started a large beekeeping library collection. Came in. What would you recommend to read? Okay, so I like old books because most of them are not all this new soft beekeeping. It's nuts and bolts fundamentals. And, some people are like, well, that doesn't translate to hobby beekeepers. I say fiddlesticks. I had someone accuse me of that the other day. Like, your stuff doesn't apply to hobby beekeepers. I say that's ridiculous. Bees are bees, whether you have 2,000, whether you have two, they are literally the same. The only difference between managing 2002 is that you've got to figure out how to do it efficiently. If you're, and obviously there's different techniques. You can have horizontal hives, you can do a lot of different things, but as far as the basic fundamentals, those don't change. Bees have the same needs no matter where you go. The World of Bees by Murray Holt or Hoyt. I think it's Hoyt. Um, that's a fun read. I really enjoy it. It's not so much as a nuts and bolts how to keep bees. There is some of that in there, but it's just an enjoyable, informative read on bees. It's an older book. I love how it's written. How to keep bees and How to Keep Bees and Sell Honey by Walter T. Kelly. One of the greatest old nuts and bolts books. Very inexpensive. Go to Kelly's, call them, tell them I sent you. Call Jacinda, and she loves it when I bug her. And the books are like 8 or 9 bucks. Best price for any bee book. I like those. Any of Dr. Larry Connor's books are good. There's a handful of other books out there. Honey and the Comb by the Killian family, Eugene Killian, another great book. There's more, but that's are my tops. All right. Matthew, did you say no, 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 no? As a general rule, how often to requeen? Every year, 2 years. I like to requeen every year. Used to, I was like, I'll never requeen. Let the bees do things. But I find that I get much better results requeening every year. Helps a lot. More production colonies, less loss. And those are my queens. So I'm over quality control, and it's a whole lot better. I mean, it's perfect when you can literally split your big honey production colonies down the middle, and you can drop queen cells in there, and then you have some spare colonies as well, mating nukes that you're raising queens in. So if any of those don't take, and some of those won't take, that you have backup plans. So you have mated queens over here that you can jump in. But there's nothing better than having a cell emerge out, go and mate, and come back to the hive that it emerged from. And they do so good like that. There's no hiccups, there's no transportation. It is pristine and perfect. It's ideal. Yeah, Bob Benny does have 10 people working for him at all time. But so how is Bob Benny doing with the shingles bout? After watching his last video, I was thinking that's a real man right there. Bob is a real man. He's awesome. I was able to visit him last week, and what a pleasant trip that was. It was very fast and action packed, but oh yeah, Bob's tough, and he's really smart. He's really calm and collected, but don't mistake that he is extremely sharp and hardworking and diligent. The man has got a brilliant mind and is very hardworking, very shrewd. Lots of respect for Bob Benny. His shingles are doing a lot better from what I understand, and he thanks in due part to those stings. But let me tell you, uh, those bee stings hurt. I never had shingles. Some people in my family have, and they say they really hurt. A bee sting on top of something that's already sore or hurting. Yeah. All right. All right. Let's Hey Charles, thanks so much for the $50 donation to the experimental yard. I really appreciate you donating. If you have any questions, say it below, and I'll try to see it. Um, they're really coming on quick. Happy Acres. All right. Glad you got on, Kevin. Unless it's your wife, and then hello to her. Let's see. Let's see here. Good old book is How to Keep Bees, 1905. Haven't read that one, Frank's Bees. Probably a good one though. A lot of great books from 1905. Oh yeah, if you like some old literature, that's not too old, like you know Langstrath's books, just a little too old-fashioned. I mean, you can get stuff from it, but I mean, there's just they were still figuring out so much back in those days. A lot of respect for those guys. I love the history of it. I just don't have time for it. But man, GM Doolittle's books on scientific queen rearing, I love his book. It's a little more old fashioned, so it's not a fast read. But if you have time to read a piece of history, I love GM Doolittle. He's one of my heroes. Let's see here. Hey, Ed Friel. Good to see you on. Hope you're doing good. So I split a large colony, and they're angry, requeened with the new colonies, but the original colony still wants to kill me. They live in my small backyard. What now? So Lee Hart, how long has it been since you requeened it? It can take quite a while for colonies to calm down because those genetics literally can take about 2 months to get out of there, just about. So obviously, if she lays an egg, then that's going to take 21 days to develop, and then that bee's going to last for around 6 weeks after it is born. So that's a good period right there that you're going to have to wait, and it could be location as well sometimes. Who made the first smoker? I have no clue. Have you made a video addressing chalk brood? I haven't, Abdullah, but I don't really have problems with chalk brood. I don't, and I haven't had chalk brood here in years. I mean, every now and then I'll see a chalk or something in a colony, but uh, we really take an aggressive stance towards that. If we see even a little bit of chalk, it never gets to the point where I see it at the entrances of my hives. I've gone to beekeepers' operations that have had just chalk brood where the bees are chucking it out at the entrance, the chalked mummies of pupae and larvae and or larvae, I should say, or whatever. Never had it that bad here ever since I started raising my own queens. And any queen that shows any slip ups, they get requeened fast. We will not tolerate that. And I believe that stuff can be bred for. Absolutely. How many grafts do you put in a starter on average? So if I'm doing a 5 frame nuke starter, probably if it's a starter and a finisher, then I'm doing 30. If it's a starter and then I'm taking it to a big colony as a finisher, goodness, you could probably do 60 in there. Now, if I'm doing a 10 frame starter finisher where it's all in one, then I'll do 60. But if I'm using it as if I'm using it as just a starter and a finisher, then if I'll do 60 if it's really big, like 10 frames, super packed, half of that if it's a 5 frame. And I mean, we're talking stupid packed. Hey Ed, yeah, the experimental hives are looking pretty good. I'm going to have to move them actually. The location that I wanted to put them was not available until a certain date, and so they're actually that in a temporary holding yard right now, and they're going to be moved and kind of organized a little bit better. Kind of frustrated that I'm going to do a little more work than I wanted to. I hate moving hives, but it'll be all right. Yes, Russell Koopman, skunks, if they're feeding on a hive, they will make them very grumpy. Yes, plain and simple. They use pipes during the old skep days. I love those videos. Hey, Carlos, just beekeeping, man. Tons of it. How do you tell when a colony is too big? I have no idea. Honestly, when it's a packed double, you got to know your honey flow. So if I've got a literally packed double or very close to packed, and I know that we're still 3 or 4 weeks away from our honey flow, I'm pulling that colony back. I'm taking a frame or two of brood out there with the bees because I don't want them to swarm on me. I want to pull them back and keep them from swarming. So it just really depends on the time of the year. Hey Saint Germain, I'm gonna have Laurel get onto that. She is the expert with that kind of thing, and maybe she can figure it out. Let's see. What's the difference between 10 years ago And this year for you as beekeepers, is it more complicated or is it easier? It is easier in the fact that we have the knowledge that we need. And so we know what we need to do to have success. We're working really hard, but now we're actually getting reward for that work. 10 years ago, I was putting in work and my bees were dying on me. I didn't know what was going on. I was losing colonies to Varroa. I wasn't feeding when I should have been feeding. Um, some people feed too much. I was one of those people that didn't feed enough early on in beekeeping. Um, sometimes the bees needed feed, and I didn't recognize it until they'd already kind of taken a little bit of a hit from lack of nutrition. Understanding the seasons, that's something you can't teach through YouTube or a book. Your location is your location. Profound, right? And so you got to kind of get a feel for what it does. Every year slightly different, but overall there are patterns. 10 years ago, we were investing tons of money and just losing our shirt half the time. Some year we'd have some good years and we'd have some bad years. And now our bees look great, but we're dialing things in. We feed with a purpose. We treat and we don't guess. We know we're killing mites and we know that we're getting a lot better results than we used to. However, there's more to learn and it's definitely not time to stop. It's time to take it to another gear. And that's what this experimental yard's all about. So we all can hopefully dial in Varroa control. We must catch up with these mites and we need to surpass them if possible and get it commonplace for people to understand what it takes to help your bees thrive. Yes, I did get the bees for the experimental yard. They just got put in and the filming for the video should start in the next few days. So that video will be up by this time, by either Saturday or Sunday of next week. And I'm looking forward to having that up. Let's see. Here in Minnesota, what would you do with a hive having 15 frames with brood and a double 8 frame and no drones flying? Well, goodness. If you have any other colonies, Russell, that you can kind of share the wealth and kind of help bolster them up and help bring them up to speed, that would be the first thing that I do. But in Minnesota, if you have that many bees and you give good bee coverage and you could order a queen, which you should be able to, you could make a split if you wanted to. Of course, you're probably going for honey, so I understand that. But you can make a split. Did you see the comment by Saint Germain? Okay. Yeah, Saint Germain, she's been looking for it. Maybe it's something's going wrong, but we're not seeing it on YouTube and we're not seeing it on PayPal or wherever you may be sending that. J- um, what platform were you trying to do that? Was it YouTube? Um, what's your opinion on using no chemicals and only powdered sugar for mites? That was really popular 15 years ago, back when people thought that it worked really good, and then it didn't. Um, it might work somewhat okay if the bees are pretty broodless, but it's still not going to be that effective. Um, there's nothing wrong with chemicals. Chemicals is in everything. We are made up of a lot of chemicals. So I have no problem with a lot of the chemicals that are available to us. Thymol, fantastic. Oxalic acid, fantastic. The problem is we've got to get them into the hives in an efficient way that's gentle on the bees and more importantly, hard on the mites. And that's hard to do. Usually the more gentle it is on the bees, which we have some soft treatments, the more soft it is on the mites. But yeah, the powdered sugar, I personally wouldn't waste my time with that again. I've been down that road. Yeah, Steve, I really appreciate it. And yes, we're going to dial this in. And I think the exciting thing is I've seen over the course of the last couple of years, we've kind of pushed a couple things, mainly just out of practicality because we want to be successful. You all want to be successful, and not everybody wants a business. That's fine, but that's where I say there's a similar correlation is we all want our bees to be alive. The bees need the same things to be alive in Tennessee as they do anywhere else. They need to be healthy. They need to not have parasites eating them. They need nutrition. They need great queens. It's basically that simple. Now, obviously, if you're up in northern areas, maybe your hive configuration is going to be different, your insulation. So there are some techniques that are going to help. Obviously, in the south and hot days, maybe you have better ventilation than they would need up north. But overall, the fundamentals don't change. But what I've seen is that where we've pushed to help ourselves out and we've shared that, I've seen other people pushing and they're giving me feedback and it's helping me. And I'm seeing other people push in other areas. And I think it's just part of it. It's competition. It's healthy and we need more of it. I'm excited. Let's see what just happened. Hey Troy, thanks so much for donating again. Oh, go Vols. Oh man. Oh, ow. There we go. Give me that. Roll Tide. All right. Now, seriously, I hope the Vols have a good year. I really do appreciate you, Troy. I would like to see the Vols new coach and staff do a good job. I love seeing SEC football doing really good. And I like to see the Orange be second best in the SEC. Second best. Thank you so much. What do you think about fogging for Varroa with mineral oil and wintergreen? I don't like it at all. I had that question earlier. I think that's been fantastic for getting the clicks on YouTube, and it's been the talk of the town for quite a while. And 10 years from now, hardly anybody is going to be using it, just like the powdered sugar method, because it doesn't work. It is literally people shooting in the dark, and they don't know what it does truly. And I don't think it works good. And there are people who have tested it. I wish I had time to test it myself, um, but I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good enough. Are you going to use heat for Varroa control in the test yard? Irish Bee uses it with some success. I wish I could. We're going to have to keep it pretty simple. Um, I'm actually going to be releasing a poll. We're not going to be actually doing any of the treatments until probably June or July when the mites have escalated a little bit, which is natural. And so that's when the treatments are going to go down. I'm going to create a poll. It's going to be posted on YouTube. I'll have it in a video and a link. Also, I'll have it on my Facebook page if you follow me there. And if you have, I'm going to give multiple different options. And everyone can kind of say, this is what I like to see. This is what I like to see. And we're going to weigh everyone's opinions on because there's a couple different ways that we could go about this. We've thought about maybe instead of having 4 test groups of 13, having 5 test groups, one being a control group, and then having 4 treatment groups. And so we're gonna throw a couple different options out there. So we're going to be doing oxalic acid and we're going to be doing thymol, but there's a couple other options that we could do for the other spots. And I'd like to hear you all's opinions on that. I won't be able to do heat this year, but maybe next year we can. Oh, Tennessee volunteer shirt. I like to have some Tennessee Vols volunteer to help me get a lot of the nitty gritty work done around here. Yeah, SEC does rule. Yeah, Dan C. Off-label Varroa treatments. The thing about Randy. Now, keep in mind, I like Randy Oliver's information, and he has been helpful to a lot of beekeepers, and for good reason. A lot of people donate to him, and I think they should keep doing that. But Randy, just like myself, is not perfect. And there's been some stuff that he has posted that people think is him recommending it. And he posted about the 5 rounds of oxalic acid vapor in 21 days. It was someone else's research that he posted, from what I understood. Maybe he's done some tests since then, but I have not found 5 rounds in 21 days to be effective in getting me 90% kill on brooding heavy, nice brooding colonies. And there's other beekeepers who are more experienced than myself who have also found the same. So just keep in mind that just like with this test yard, it is literally going to be preliminary. We're attempting to dial it in. I fully plan on the best test, well, the ones that do the best at eliminating mites. We'll get rid of the ones that don't do so hot. We'll keep the ones into the next year and do those again so we can see if it'll repeat the second year and see the hives produce in the next year, and then add some other test groups. But just keep in mind that we're all prone to a little bit of being a little biased. I'm really going to do my best to not be. I kind of have an idea of what's going to be better, but if it's not, I want to know because literally I'm using it on hundreds of colonies and I need it to work good. Yeah, Norman C. Lane, got to take care of fellow beekeepers. We do. We literally mostly just have each other, just have one another. There are some researchers out there that do good for us, but there needs to be more research done. They can only do so much. They only have so much funding, and some of the funding is in the areas that we really need, like better mite control. And the big ag groups, which I'm not sure if we really kind of want their help, anyways. Um, they invest into chickens and beef and all this stuff, but bees is such a small market. We've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to focus on spending our money in places that actually care about beekeepers too, that are actually trying to develop better products and new products to help beekeepers. We're behind the times. I'm all about old fashioned. I love older things, but also innovation is crucial. Kamon, do you scrape drone brood to look for mites as a gauge for future mite loading? Not on a regular basis. Laurel has done that from time to time. And I have seen sometimes them between drone brood, but typically alcohol washes. If I really want to know something, I'll do an alcohol wash. Let's see. Yeah, have you read about the field trials in 2018 using mushroom extract? Oh, have I? I totally have. It's been blasted all over the place. And hey, it may work. It might be the greatest thing ever for bees. The problem is it's not working as far as it's not accessible. It's still in the preliminary stages. I need something that I can use and that's going to work. I don't care what it is. If it's this mushroom stuff, then get it on the market and make sure it darn well works. I know it takes a lot of money to get those things involved, but in order for me to fund and invest in something like that, I've got to know it works, and I've also got to be able to access it. And we need new things. I'm all for it. If it'll help out, I'm all for mushrooms in the beehive. I'm for a lot of things in the beehive. Houston Shelton, we already have 52 colonies for the experimental yard. They were just installed, so they're ready to go. We're just waiting to start filming some videos on them and letting you guys know how it's going. Let's see here. I'm a Christian, by the way, Lion of Judah, Lamb of God. But I really appreciate it if you keep it down on that kind of stuff, or I'm going to delete you off here. I really believe in there's a time and place for everything. Right now, we're talking bees, and it's been the last days since Jesus left, so it's not like right now is the end, and it could be tonight. Shoot, I might be taken out of this chair, but uh, at the same time, now is not the time or place for that. Let's see. There are some. Yeah, yeah. You have to be a skeptic, Corey. And that's the thing. If I've learned one thing over the last this 18th season for me is that you have to be a skeptic. Any new products out there, just remember somebody's making money off of that. These essential oils, but some people aren't making money. Some people just want to be well known or be the guru. And I find the people that are the best to listen to are the ones who don't care about that. I look at guys like Bob and Ian, and they do have a following now. But if they didn't do YouTube, hardly, Bob didn't do YouTube for most of his career, and he's been an elite beekeeper for a long time. And there's been people listening to nuts on YouTube for years. Um, you know, so that's just kind of how it goes. You have to be skeptical with and be skeptical with my stuff, please. Don't just see that, oh man, Kamon's getting an apame hive. That must mean we all need one. No, I like to try things out. I'm just like the rest of you guys. I love tinkering around with bees. I love tinkering around with bee gadgets. Doesn't mean I'm going to go buy a flow hive for every hive I've got. Let's see. Weren't you messing with seaweed mixed in pollen patties or something like that? How did that go? So, this, I didn't do anything super sciency with that, but I stuck it into the colonies. They ate it. They'll eat anything with enough sugar, granted. I think there could be merit there. It was a very small, just personal test. They ate it. All four of those colonies survived. So, but I didn't feed it to them coming out of winter on a regular basis. I alternated Ultra Bee and used some of the seaweed patty. I just think the essential oils are too strong. Essential oils are very strong smelling, and bees can smell way better than we can. They communicate through pheromones, and anything that could block that is going to affect the colony. If I want the bees brooding up in February, I don't want something that's going to block that. I think they need to be tested a little bit more. I just don't have time to be the one to do it. Um, I think that we should look into spirulina a little bit more. I'm not sure if it's something long term that would be good or not. I really don't know. It definitely didn't kill my bees or anything like that, but um, it's pretty expensive. Also, we also as a business, I have to weigh. This is where things are different between maybe a hobbyist and a professionals. I have to weigh cost a lot more. If I am throwing patties in there that are $3 a pound or whatever, I mean, goodness, if I can get Ultra Bee in bulk for $1 something a pound on sale, what do you think I'm doing? I'm going Ultra Bee, unless I have a really darn good reason to be using something else. They better be killing mites and really doing something special. But that's all I've really got to say on that. What does it mean? I want to be with for pollen pockets, exits the high end, flies away. I don't know what that means. Maybe try again on that one. And so he mentioned one more time. I'm unemployed, can't give you no money. That's fine. I don't expect everyone to give me money. I actually don't expect anybody to give me money. I really do appreciate those that do. There are a lot of ways that you can help. The experimental yard and everything else. Watch the videos. Let a bee buddy of yours know at a club or something. That's better than anything. And if you like Audible, you can go through our link in the description of every one of our videos. You don't pay a dime, and it really helps support our YouTube channel. You get the free trial. You get to keep 3 free books. And at the end of the free trial, if you don't like it or don't want to keep Audible, then you cancel it. And we still get a nice donation towards our channel. Laurel, you can post a link below on that, I think. It'll be in the description of this video. What's the earliest you super? I super here last part of March and early April, and here in Tennessee. Let's see. Yeah. The foam hives must be the future with the current lumber prices. The lumber prices are insane. It's I'm going to get political here just for a second. But what we have done, we have enabled people in this country. We have enabled people to sit at home because why is lumber prices so high? Why is our beekeeping equipment getting so high? It's not because the guys who are cutting the trees down or who are growing the timber are getting paid more. I know guys who are growing pine trees. They're not getting paid anymore. anything extra special. And the guys that are selling it, the local hardware store, they're not making any extra. It's the manufacturers in the middle. And I think a lot of it is because right now people are incentivized to stay home and receive your little checks from the government, which is technically our money, anyways. And so they're sitting at home instead of working. And because of that, there's not enough employees to produce the products. There's a shortage, demand is high, and we have a super messed up lumber price system right now. It's driving me nuts. Get If you're healthy and you can work, you need to work, and no other options for you. Yeah, Texas. It's funny. This country was kind of founded to get rid of all this tax, right? And here we are, right back where we started. Except we're Europe now. If anyone is here from Europe, don't take it personally. I'm talking about good old Britain that we shucked off back in 1776. Um, Did you see the essential oil paper towel treatment on Bob Benny's video on Queen Breeder segment with Chris Warner? He mentioned it was somewhat helpful with mites and hive beetles. Your thoughts? I would look into it, Troy. Obviously, I can't recommend it. I guarantee you it's probably off label, and I'm not sure it's legal. That has never stopped most professional beekeepers, though. I really try to keep everything on label just because. Oh, there's Laurel. She just pinned it. Laurel just pinned the link to Audible if you'd like to go to the free trial and really support our channel for free. Really helps us out, and you can actually get some free beekeeping books because there's some good beekeeping books on Audible. Sorry, but it may work good. The problem is these kind of things will never be able to probably be made legal, and someone's a millionaire. But if Chris Warner is doing it, and Bob knows Chris and recommends Chris, it's something to consider. I've never personally used it. I believe beekeepers are especially guys like that who have been doing it for years. I think they're the best at keeping bees. Researchers and scientists take second. They play second fiddle compared to the beekeepers who are getting it done. That's my opinion. And Bob and Chris seems like Mr. Warner seems like a great beekeeper. And I actually got some of his queens. So I purchased some to try out. So I will let you all know how those do for me. I'm really excited to see how they perform. And I expect nothing but good. Hey, John Tanner, thanks again so much. I appreciate you coming on here. Um, you know, uh, I really appreciate your donation helping out again. Quick rundown of mite treatment you use. So in December, I like using carnies because they grow broodless. Sometimes Italian hives will not grow broodless here in December, and they'll start brooding up in late January. So it's hard to get a good kill. So I do carnies primarily for that reason. Easier to kill mites, more exposure. 2 rounds of oxalic acid vapor in December. Then after honey pull in June, Apiguard thymol, or I was using Apivar strips. Not going to be using that this year. Don't think they work good enough. I don't know what I think it's quality control, but that's my opinion. I have no proof yet. And then in fall, so let's say I used Apivar in June. I'll check them with an alcohol wash in August, and then you can do Apiguard thymol then, or you can do a brood break split and use oxalic acid. I usually have 3 or 4 options. Controlling mites is priority number 1. Queens quality is priority number 2, and nutrition is right up there with those. You got to have those great queens, dead mites, and good nutrition. Tent plugs for bucket feeders. Yeah, I mean, I've got 100 bucket feeders that have the plugs like Bob Benny uses. They're I think they're those tent plugs. They're fantastic. They're awesome. Over your 18 years, how did your numbers progress? Did you intend to get to 350 colonies when you started? Well, when I started, I was planning on doing farmers markets and just honey being kind of my, my side way of making additional money at my farmer's market booths. I was really into natural, healthy foods, and I still love it. I need to get somebody to do that around here. I have no time for it now. It's really frustrating. But I've wanted to have an agricultural based business since I was probably about 14, somewhere around there, 13 or 14. And I've been trying to build or do business type stuff since I was a kid. A lot of embarrassing stories there, but it's kind of how I cut my teeth doing stupid stuff, and now I'm just doing less stupid stuff. But yeah, I definitely didn't start out thinking, man, I want to be a commercial beekeeper. I still have no desire to truck bees around the country. But I do. I fell in love with bees. They're great. It was definitely a hard relationship early on because I didn't understand what was going on, and I lost a lot of hives, and I was sinking thousands upon thousands of dollars and literally getting hardly any honey or anything out of it. And it's not always about getting something out of it, but it's really disheartening when you don't have bees alive. And over time, we got a little bit better. I've always been a big reader, big researcher, and I like conquering. Laura will tell you that. I derive satisfaction. I don't have fun for the sake of having fun. When I play sports, when I play cards with you, it is on. And it's just frustrating to some people. Victory is how I derive most of my pleasure. And I know that's kind of weird. That's a little secret right there. But I'm very self competitive with myself and anybody else. And so when I got into it and started getting better, I wanted to be great at it. Not so that everybody else could say, oh, Kamon Reynolds is great. The YouTube channel was definitely not my idea. But if there's 100% or 0%, those are the two options in my life. So as I loved bees, I wanted to do more and more of it. And now it's getting to the point where it's actually getting out of control. So you can turn something you love into a monster, that's for sure. But yeah. Hey, Russell Koopman, I would like to test Apivar in my test yard this year. Maybe I should do it anyways. But I was really wanting to focus on the natural side of things. Maybe I can do that in a different bee yard. It's just so darn expensive. Let's see here. Did I miss something? Do you have carpenter bees around your hives? They have decided to live in the wood holding up our hives. Oh yeah, we have carpenter bees everywhere, and a baseball bat does wonders. But no, they're literally just everywhere. They bore into everything. That's why I paint all of my boxes. If I leave boxes unpainted too long, they will drill into wooden hives sitting in my shed. Drives me nuts. Let's see. I missed something. But sorry, I miss a lot of stuff. Uh, Sometimes, yeah, I'll look at Bob and I look at Ian, and they're also very hardcore about it, and I think that's what it takes, honestly. And it's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You got to love it. Do you try to breed towards mite-resistant colonies? I did back in the day. I may attempt to do that with the experimental yard in the future, but right now I think it's kind of there are people out there who are doing a lot towards that, and they're not having success. Some of them claim that they do, very little proof that it's actually working. It's funny how when I've ordered some of their queens, the the benefits disappear when they show up to Tennessee. And then they tell me, well, it's all about location. I'm like, well, that doesn't do me any good. I don't need ideals. I I don't need your theories. I need something that works. I need something that actually works. And if it doesn't, then it's no good. I don't care if it works for you. It's got to work for me, you know? And then I have people that are like, well, you know, I personally think if you can't duplicate it, if you can't take it and duplicate it, then you shouldn't teach it. Honestly, that's just the way I feel about it. Personal opinion. I get in trouble with that one a lot. Lose some treatment-free beekeeping guys, but I just it's got to work. People want their bees to be alive, and the mites are real, and they're bad. They're real bad. They're literally eating your bees alive right now, whether it's 50 in your hive or 5,000, and they grow darn fast. A lot of variables. Ian, Up in Canada, he doesn't produce near the mites that I do down here in Tennessee. Totally different situation. Matthew Riggins, I fell in love with beekeeping when I smelled my first hive after it was open. Hey, the beekeeping smells are amazing. I love Nasanov from the bees. I don't really much relish the alarm pheromone because usually that means I'm fixing to get lit up. I love the smell of propolis, beeswax, honey. It's just such a when the hive is healthy, it's a pristine, wonderful environment. It's awesome. And then honey is just amazing. Awesome. How do you deal with drone layers? So if it's a drone laying queen, I'm going to shake them into a new box and I'm going to let the forager bees just drift around to other hives and figure it out. And then I'm going to give them some one-to-one. I'm going to give them a frame of healthy larvae or two from a colony that can spare it if you have it. And then I'm going to introduce a new queen and a slow introduction. I'm going to stick her in there and keep the cork on it for 3 days. So they can't get her out. Put her down in there between the frames of brood, and then come back in, lightly smoke if any, and pop that cork on there, and then let them introduce and keep that little bit of feed. Don't plug the colony up, but give them a little feed. Feed helps introductions out, and bam. A lot of times that works really good. Queen cells work the best. If you have a lane worker situation that's not too far gone, queen cells are the easiest way to fix those. They'll accept a queen cell and where they won't accept a queen. Any information on the 2022 Bee Conference? Oh, yeah. So we're talking to different vendors, trying to get some good pricing. Laura and I were just talking about this. This is, again, why we need an employee. We've got to find the time to be able to open up registration because a lot of you are wanting to make plans for this. It's going to happen on the 7th and 8th of January, but I don't have registration available yet. Last year, we did it the old-fashioned way, and we spent hundreds of hours typing people down and then emailing them back and keeping track of everything. It was a nightmare. And had it been in June, it would have just been a unholy nightmare. So we've got to get it set up. If I have to pay somebody to do it, to where you guys can just like send in your registration and then it sends you a notification that you are good to go or all that kind of stuff. And it's really streamlined. It'll be easier on you all and us, but it is going to happen. Speakers lined up are great. And as long as the Canadian border's not shut down and Ian doesn't freeze to death between now and then, Ian Steffler's going to be coming down. That's going to be a lot of fun. Best hive beetle treatment to use. Oh goodness. The Dynamax towels work really good. The beetle blasters work pretty good. Those two pretty much. The Dynamax towels work good. Let's see here. I missed something on the syrup feeding. Have you heard of feeding bees high fructose corn syrup? Yeah, just make sure it's if you're going to use high fructose corn syrup, use 55 corn syrup. You can actually get it in Memphis at Cargill, and it's very inexpensive there. One of my very good beekeeping buddies down in there uses it all the time, and he says he has really good success with it. I'm a big fan of cane sugar syrup. It's proven to be healthier for the bees, but the corn syrup will work. The high fructose corn syrup 55 works pretty good for him. And I've had Russian bees. I've had a lot of different things, and they all eventually needed treatment. And the Russian beekeepers will tell you that they use less treatments, but sometimes they have to treat. I think probably the Russian program is the only, or is one of the few legit programs that have been around for a long time that actually make me feel like they're doing something. Some of these suppliers are like, we got treatment-free bees. One of my buddies bought from them this year, very well-known company. and he treated all of them with oxalic acid vapor in their packages. Treatment free, like 200 and something bucks a pop for a package. That's more than I charge for my nukes. So he did the good thing though, and he did a vaporizer, oxalic acid, 8 or 9 days after installation. So there was no capped brood yet. He showed me the pictures of the mite fallout on the sticky boards, and oh my goodness, there must have been 400 or 500 mites on the cleanest looking package. That colony was so riddled with mites, they were definitely treatment free, all right. Mite free, not so much. Let's see here. Pink elephant apiaries. Yeah, if you'll email me at tennesseesbees@gmail.com, kind of let me know what services you can offer. We'll see about that and communicate on that a little bit. Let's see here. Thoughts on beekeepers improving their bee boxes with interior walls that encourage the hive to propolize the size to form a strong antimicrobial propolis envelope. I've thought about that myself, and some beekeepers have actually been known to flog the inside parts of the wood and beat them and scratch them up so the bees will put more propolis in there. I don't think propolis is the answer, though. Not for the big issues that we have. It's not going to help with small hive beetles. It's not going to help with Varroa. I don't think those things. Propolis helps with any of the big problems. Now, can it help with some of the other lesser problems? Chalk brood, European foul brood, maybe some minor stressors. Sure. But I'm not one of those guys that wants to breed propolis production out of bees. But at the same time, I'm not sure having tons of it over the hive is actually going to make that big of a difference. That's just my personal opinion. Um, you know, European foul brood and chalk brood and a lot of those things, I just don't have issues with them. Again, we selected for those for years, and the guys that I occasionally buy from are extremely particular about breeding for that as well. And so I don't bring in bees. Actually, that was one of my biggest concerns with bringing in these bees for the experimental yard is keeping them away from mine because I don't want any of their cooties by and large until I vetted them, and I don't want any of that stuff getting into my bees. Try to keep mine extremely clean. Yeah, I've had a lot of people mention college interns and stuff like that. I need to look into that as well. Best return on investment with bees, raising my own queens and also taking the time to kill mites. But yeah, as far as those two things after that, then that Cowan silver queen uncapper for sure, man. That saves us so much work during honey season. You just throw those frames in and just let it do the magic. Yeah, bee cooties. It's a real thing. They're all females, so obviously they have a bunch of cooties. Let's see here. Any tips or tricks for attracting a swarm? Signs of a swarm is coming. Really, just having a good swarm trap has brood comb, propolis. You can collect propolis that you've scraped up throughout the years and melt that and smear it on the inside walls. You can use lemongrass or swarm commander. Good having good propolis and maybe an old brood comb in there really helps probably more than anything. Location is important. I've trapped bees for many years, and there's some spots that are really hot. You'll catch bees there almost every year. Some of them you'll catch two in that location. And I have some locations, I mean, literally, I've caught one there every year. And there's some spots after a couple of years of not catching anything, you just move it somewhere else. So a lot of variables there. Put it close to a beekeeper who lets their bees swarm. That's a great way. And I would say if you're putting them away from your bees, honestly, I would go 3/4 to a mile away. I really would. I think anything too close, like a quarter mile, is just that might work, but definitely a few hundred yards, in my opinion, is too close. Way too close. Yeah, maybe at some point I'll look into his VSH queens. I've fooled with VSH queens in the past. I'm not a big fan of any of the VSH types that I've tried in the past, and I've tried several. His might be different, but when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm monstrously skeptical. Um, I VSH have not been anything I've ever wanted to keep long term in my experience. I always thought they were super lackluster. Ever made a split with a piping queen, undamaged queen cell still in the hive? Yeah, as long as the cells aren't damaged and they have enough bee coverage to keep them warm, those can work really good. Do you do anything when you see mites attached to your bees during a colony inspection? Yes, D. Spencer, I do. I usually go, ah! And I hate it when I see mites like that. It's time to drop the hammer. If you're seeing mites on bees, there's too many. You need to start hitting them with something. Oxalic acid vapor and do it regular, real regular. Let's see here. I gotta get some honey. Any thoughts on a hog's half cell? So I'm thinking hog half comb. Those those look pretty cool. I've never tried them. If I was gonna do something like that, I would definitely do the hog method over the Ross round comb honey. Have you ever had a colony Africanized? I had a guy give me some from the Weavers down in Texas. Meanest bees, and we've had other people bring bees from Texas and similar supplier, and they just get lit up. I'm not saying all of their queens are like that, and some people seem to like them, but yeah, our state apiarist is pretty upset, and he thinks that sometimes that these some of these suppliers down in these Africanized areas should not be able to sell bees up in northern states. But other than just a limited experience with a few from down there, which I killed the queens and replaced them with my own, and all of a sudden they were fun to work with again. Yeah, no experience. So you might answer this, but are you hitting the test packages with OA right after setup, or are you keeping them how they come? Well, first of all, they're nukes, Harley Dickin. They definitely aren't getting treated. I'm going to leave them until probably June sometime when I start actually treating them. So they won't be touched. When we do the first alcohol washes, whatever they are is what they naturally have gotten to. Yeah, with the hog half comb just looks gorgeous. I mean, but I haven't tried it. I would love to try that for a YouTube video at some point. I just haven't had the time. Formic acid, there's some guys that figure out how to use it appropriately. I have no experience actually being successful with formic acid. Kind of like with the VSH, bad experiences lead to an unwillingness to attempt again. But I did use formic acid last year on a couple colonies. I had two colonies last year that had viruses that I could tell. And I dropped a full dose of formic acid in a 90 something degree day, and it cooked everything in there. It didn't kill the bees as far as the older bees, but they absconded, got them away from my colonies, and probably any viruses that were on the outside of them or anything. It just kind of cooked everything in there. And formic does really good at that, let me tell you. Hey, Darian Sharp. I hope that your packages come in and do really good for you. Um, I'll be looking to see your video on the packages when they arrive. So keep up the good work. Beekeeping can be kind of hard early on, but Just remember that if you have any mistakes, there's a good chance that I have made worse and recently. Definitely. So keep up the hard work and just keep doing it. You will be successful if you don't stop. That's really the secret is not giving up. Hey Wyatt Brewster, thank you so much for the kind words. When installing the nukes, how long do you leave them on top of the hive to orient before installing them? Can't say anything today. I just stuck them on top. We pulled them off, opened them up. They needed to get some air. You can stick them in later that evening. You can stick them in the next day. The main thing is you make sure they don't overfill that nuke and start wanting to swarm on you. Do you think that hygienic testing for Minnesota hygienic bees is a gimmick or VSH? I stuck that in there. Doesn't all healthy, strong hives remove dead brood? I think there is something. There's bees that are a little bit more resistant. As far as aggressive towards cleanliness, obviously we need to breed better bees. Try to breed better bees. We don't want colonies that are susceptible to things, but I think there are limitations, especially when it comes to mites, which are just insanely different than anything else, tracheal mites included. Insanely different. It's worse than all the other bee problems rolled together and times by two, and then some. It's limited, and I think that people should be doing that work as long as they realize that it's limited. Then that's great. Kind of like the Russian beekeeping program, what they're doing. I think people should be doing the hygienic stuff. But I've been seeing people do Russian programs and hygienic bees since I got into beekeeping, and some of them were doing it before I got into beekeeping, and here we are. And if anything, our options for treatments are worse, and we still don't know if there is any legit bees out there that can handle Varroa, and I would bet $1,000 there isn't. Whoops. Well, you said you'd tell me. Oh, that's right. Um, let's see here. I'm gonna get to. Let's see. Yeah, appreciate all the thumbs up and everything. And Laurel posted. Can I still see that up there? Yeah, so pinned in the comments is a link to the Audible link. If you like audiobooks, I do. There's some good ones by Dr. Tom Seeley. If you don't have a free trial and haven't tried it, go through our link there. You send a nice donation our way, and it's completely free. You actually get literature. You can keep Audible and then pay for it later if you like it. But it's a wonderful way to support us without having to spend a dime. We really appreciate that. Yeah, Happy Acres, we never recommend the full dose on Formic. And I'm hoping maybe we will do Formic this year. We're going to do that poll. Everyone be on the lookout for that. We're going to have a poll for a couple of the areas in the test yard, and we're going to go with what people want to see. So if a large amount of people want to see Formic and watch me maybe nuke my bees with it, we'll see. But that's fine. We've got to learn. That's what these videos are for. And there's other options. HopGuard 3 out there. If at first you don't succeed, try again and make HopGuard 2. And then if you don't succeed after that, make HopGuard 3. And then, but they say, third strikes, you're out. So they better got it right this time. It's getting late. Yeah, I had a buddy who got some Weaver Queens in Taft, Tennessee, and I think he got 30 of them. He said he's never been stung so much in his life. I mean, he'd be like 400 yards from the hive and they were still chasing him. It's just like, and he was showing me videos of them. I'm just like, they're Africanized. They have to be. And they're coming at him like squadrons of 50. It's like something out of Looney Tunes. Larry Lee's Bees. Hey, man, I hope you're doing good up there in Northern Washington. Yeah, the test yard's underway. How many colonies total in the test yard? There are 52. And right now we're looking at 4 test groups of 13, but we're talking about maybe doing 5 groups of 10, and the 2 extras will probably go to the group that I feel like is needing the most. And I would think maybe oxalic acid because I'm wanting to do oxalic acid dribble and oxalic acid vapor. So that would give us a little bit more of a test in those areas. I think oxalic acid is one of the ways forward. I really think, but we've got to understand it better. We've got to utilize it more diligently. And I think if we can do that and get some strategies, because the mites know what they're doing. We don't. We're still figuring out. I mean, goodness, it was just a handful of years. We thought they were still eating the bee's blood. We're way behind. Our treatments way behind. We've got to fix this. We're going to. And if I have anything to say about it, I'm not saying we'll be the ones to do it, but we're definitely going to try. Well, Apis cerana figured out how to deal with Varroa because they evolved alongside Varroa. Yeah, Apis cerana, for one, I don't believe in evolution, so that's gonna. How's that? But even if you do, and let's go the evolutionary route, I can totally ride that way. But if we're gonna go that, we don't have millions of years to wait. I'll be lucky if I have 50 more years. The thing of it is, they had a totally different setup. And Apis cerana really stinks as far as being a good bee to keep for honey production. So, if you switch over that, you probably are losing tons of honey. You're losing being able to split. And some people are okay with that. Some people don't really care. But that would, if we had Apis cerana and nothing but that in the United States, it would drastically impact the cost of all of your food by and large. Everything would be more expensive. And that's not necessarily bad if you can, it's best to buy local anyways. Yeah, I did say that. There's we could talk about that for a long time, but it's interesting though how we turn to evolution as a scapegoat. We don't even have accurate history on bees 100 years ago. Not really accurate, or 200 years ago. And we want to start talking millions of years. It doesn't help. Evolution can do its own thing. The wild bees can do their own things. I'm not going to do anything with that. Anyways, whether you look at it from a creation or an evolutionary standpoint, there is a lot of things that went extinct because they did not evolve. A lot. And the honeybee, with a couple more new things coming in, could be one of them. And I hope not. The varroa mite's not going to do it, but a couple more viruses, maybe a tropolapsis mite, maybe some new predator we haven't heard about. It could happen. Honeybees aren't native to this country. A lot of the plants that we have are not native to this country. Our American chestnut did not evolve. It used to be like one out of every 4 trees in this state. There's not a single one now. So things change for sure. All I can tell you is I got a really short lifespan. I'll be lucky to make 80 years. I seriously doubt I'll see any change on either side of the fence that you choose to believe. That's all, and that's it. I mean, why aren't we seeing monkeys turn into humans in slight progression? Why is it all at once? Why aren't we seeing anything happening in the middle of it? Seems all too gray, not black and white. I believe in black and white things. I do. So if it doesn't make any sense to me, that's where I go. The American chestnut is basically extinct. There's a few things. There's a few people trying to keep the trees, and they've kept them just enough to where they're not completely extinct. But there's no wild ones left. I evolved from a sweet child to a grumpy old man. Well, I don't know. I think that's degeneration, Matthew. That's not regeneration. Anyways, let's get off of this a little bit. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so Tracy's talking about how they have no varroa in the alcohol washes, but they live in a desert type environment. And it could be, I think mites and bees are very sensitive to humidity. I know our treatments are susceptible to humidity and to, dry weather and how it impacts how the formic acid or the oxalic acid. There are so many chemical reactions and so many things going on. That's why we have to push, because we are really, really just behind, and we just don't understand a lot of these things. I feel like as beekeepers, we probably understand maybe 10% of what's really going on in the hive as far as the little stuff. Well, sure, TD. I totally don't, but I don't totally mind people believing in evolution. Most of the people do, um, but there's a lot of people that believe a lot of other crazy stuff, like the world's flat. So everyone should be entitled to their own opinions and keep it. But I can swing on both sides of the fence on that. The Varroamite on the side of creation, or the Varroamite on the side of evolution. Neither side has an answer. Neither side has an answer. And until somebody does, I'm going to keep gunning down my road. As far as evolution's not going to fix this for us, not in our lifetimes, and it could be millions of years. Yeah, yes, I am going to. I'm sorry, Laurel. I did not mean to get on this rabbit trail, but the treatment free crowd. I used to be the harder core treatment free than probably anybody on this live chat. That's the thing I think many people don't realize. A lot of the stuff that you're saying, I was saying 15 years ago. And sometimes I get angry because I feel like I'm talking to myself. And I like to go back in time and kick myself in the butt. But anyways, ever try a new incubator and possibly lose your grafts? Mine may have been on the cool side too longly. I incubators can cause issues if they're not actually working properly. One thing that I might recommend is that if you are not sure about that incubator, how effective, as far as efficient or properly working that thermostat is in there, that thermometer to gauge that temperature, put another one in there, buy another one, stick it in there, and make sure if it says that it's 93 or whatever temperature you have it set at, that the other one is confirming that it actually is that temperature. And make sure, and also you have to make sure that I like having a fan in my incubator, because it could be 98 at the top and 93 at the bottom. If I was going to have a sensor somewhere, I would have it at the top if I wasn't going to have a fan, but it's definitely best to have a fan in there, even if it's just lightly blowing, making sure that air is circulating and getting a nice even temp throughout the incubator. Can I treat for mites during the honey flow? You can treat for them with formic acid. Hopguard 3, I cannot remember if it is or not. You'll have to look at the label on that. Not that I'm sure it'll work that good anyways. And oxalic acid will be in the future once they change the label on the apabioxyl product. Though I don't think it's worth the effort. Treatments, most of the oxalic acid is not very good when there's a lot of brood. So you could do it, but you're gonna have to do a lot of treatments with the supers on. And I don't like anything, even if I was spritzing water in the hive. I really don't want that. I don't want to get in the hives when there's a honey flow going on. I got too much work going on. Let's see here. Well, TD, and seriously, most of my friends, some of my best beekeeping buddies, totally disagree with me on a lot of different things, how they live their life, what they believe, all that stuff, and I'm fine with that. Some of the people I've learned the most from disagree with me on a lot of things, and that's great. I think that's good, and people need to be more willing to work through those differences and still find common ground and create something. Our culture in America and just in the country, because of the internet and how we listen to the news. I shut it off. I don't care what brand of news it is. It's all about breaking us apart. disorganizing the American people and separating us. They're trying to get us to fight with one another instead of yanking them out of offices, which is what all of them need. Yuri, I always cringe when you start your inspections in the middle of the box rather than the edge frames. I know. That's just the kind of the way that I do it. For videos, if as long as I move them out of the way a little bit, especially if I'm not having to do something too intensive, Yuri, I go in there and I separate those out a little bit and pull out some frames of brood, make sure that things are on the up and up, and then I just shut it back up instead of having to go through those edge frames that probably don't have anything. So um, I've had good luck with that. Um, but definitely, if I'm doing a big inspection, like checking for swarm cells, I'm going to cut out or looking for the queen or something I know it's going to be really intensive. Yeah, I start on the edges for sure. Do you have any new videos in your Apame test jar? Would love to see more on that. Hey, they are coming. They are coming. I don't have any new videos yet, but we are filming. Of course, for this series, it's going to take a little bit more effort. We will really want to do a better job with the experimental yard videos. Our other videos, I think we do good, but we just kind of it's kind of like, hey, we're doing an inspection today, and this is what we're seeing, and this is yada yada yada. I'm going to try to be a little bit more thoughtful and methodical about this because we're really trying to accomplish something very serious and very problematic. So it's going to take a little bit more work, but there's definitely going to be a lot of videos on those Apimays, and half of the test yard, of course, is wooden hives. So looking forward to those videos. How long do you wait to inspect after installing a new package? Oh, probably about 7 days, 10 days at the latest. How's the horizontal hive? Check the video in the morning and you will see. Um, Also, I got some inner covers for the horizontal hive. It really needed it bad. Goodness. I'm glad I didn't have to wait any longer because with the honey flow starting up, it would have been all bird up like crazy. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, Houston Shelton. I've done the treatment free route, bred from the survivors, purchased treatment free queens, treatment free nukes. I've done so much of that, so much of that. I mean everything. The small cell foundation, anything that I've heard of, I have tried and tried to make it work. I couldn't get it to work. I just lost too many hives. Now, back then I was dealing with some years 80% loss, and then out of the 20%, those 20% weren't all champs. A lot of those were weak. Now we're talking 8% loss, 10, 12% loss on the high side, and I have too many hives to manage right now. Hey Tim, no, I'm not angry. I'm just opinionated. So, TD, how many times has Laurel told you to stop this video? Either that, or she's told me to stay on to the more g- gentle topics. Um, you know, Sometimes I get tired of talking about the basics in beekeeping, and sometimes I like to share my opinions. And I hope not everybody agrees, because my opinions are wrong sometimes. However, um, consider this an outlet occasionally. It's been a busy last couple of weeks. How do you want to see your nukes looking before you sell them? How do the frames look like? Okay, this is a great question. I think this could be really helpful to you all who are selling nukes or looking to do in the future. So yeah, Laurel's told me to stop like 3 or 4 times. With the nukes, they can overheat. Even the Jester nuke boxes, Pro nukes are like greenhouses. Definitely keep them in partial shade. Packed bees are hot, extremely hot. I don't care if it's 60 degrees as a high and it's cloudy. They can overheat in a 5 frame nuke box if they are really packed full of bees. Don't pack them full of bees. They've got to be able to get their bodies out of the hive. And I mean, I have sold them before and I've seen it this year where beekeepers sell nukes and they're so packed and it's 58 degrees and like they won't overheat in this and the bees will cook themselves. The entire hive just completely just not a live bee left. They've got to have space. It's a tricky situation. If they're too packed, they're going to try to swarm on the new beekeeper too. What you want is to get them, and what I want to see is 3 good frames of brood. I want a foundation frame that's half drawn on one side, partially drawn on the other. That's ideal in a frame of food. And so I like to see 3 brand new combs and 2 old combs that I start them with. And that way the consumer is not just getting older combs, and we don't sell, our most garbage combs, but we do have 2 combs, and they could be 5, 6, 7 years old, but they're good combs, and there's going to be 3 brand new foundations. I don't see any problems with old combs like that, but some people do. Sometimes the combs are 3 or 4 years. So 3 good frames of brood, frame of food, and that partially started foundation. That's good for multiple reasons. One, I don't want to make sure that they're too packed. I don't want them swarming on the people as they buy them. And two, I want them in the mode of comb drawing and expansion when they get them. So they plop them down into their 10 frame, 8 frame, whatever hive, and they feed them thin syrup and they just keep drawing, keep expanding. And then that 3 frames of brood, if it's good brood, and it should be, it's going to do a wonderful job emerging and filling up that new hive and continuing to grow. And then once the bees have started drawing out the last side of the 8th frame, so you have 2 frames that are not drawn, that is when you add your next deep box. Pull a frame of larvae up. Always stay ahead of the sticks when it comes to that. I don't want to put it on too early, but once they've started getting that 8th frame drawn pretty good, that's a good time to get that second deep on. But you can overheat them. I don't want them to be too small either. So we're probably looking about 4.5 frames worth of actual bee coverage. Sometimes they get a little heftier than that. If my bees are a little too strong, I will cut out the hole for the feeder hole in the Jester nuke boxes. And I have a video on how to assemble those, by the way. It's really easy if you know how to do it. And I'll tape a screen up in there, and that makes a monstrous difference because all that heat just is able to go out through the top. Excuse me. What's your take on 8 frame for honey production? Works great. Did a bunch last year. The only problem is with a Kamon Silver Queen like I have, it's both of the blades. If you watch my video on capping with the Silver Queen, the blades go on both sides, and they go up along the end bars of the frame, and they just go right up that and zip, there you go. Problem is, if you do 8 frame, 9 frames, they hardly do this ever, but 8 frames, they'll make some bridge comb in between. And if that touches one of those blades, it'll push it away and it can't cut deep on that side. And it pulls the other one in. So you get a deep cut on one side and a shallow or hardly any cut on the other. So, but you can just cut those off real quick before you throw them in, and it's not a problem. But yeah, 8 frames works just fine. Oh goodness. I've got to get off here. I told Laurel I would get off an hour ago. I told her I'd try to keep it an hour and a half, and here I am, 2.5. Please don't take anything the wrong way with these live chats. I am opinionated, and probably my opinions are not yours. That's just the way it works. I hope you got something beneficial from this. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm just concerned. I like to see beekeepers doing good. I like to see my bees doing good. Hope you all have a great beekeeping season. And I hope that we see you soon in tomorrow's video, and that we will see you in the experimental yard coming soon. Um, thank you all so much for putting up with me. Thank you, Laurel, for putting up with me again in my tardiness. Yeah, I don't believe in cancel culture, Yuri. I believe people should get their opinions out. But, you know, Also, everyone needs to be okay with being wrong from time to time because there's a good chance you probably are. Goodness, dry throat. I definitely am wrong from time to time. See you all later. It's time for some coffee.